The Filipino American Cancer Care now brings you On the Air with FACC, tributes and support to those impacted by cancer. On the Air with FACC, the Filipino American Cancer Care on PHLV Radio.
Magandang gabi sa ating mga kababayan sa Pilipinas. Or, ayun na naman, good morning Philippines, magandang umaga Pilipinas. Ito talaga ang problema ko every time that I'm going to do the intro for our radio show on the air with Filipino American Cancer Care. I get confused with the time zone. Anyway, good evening ladies and gentlemen. Magandang gabi sa inyo dito sa Amerika. Good morning, Philippines. Magandang umaga, Pilipinas. My name is Josie Moralidad Azayman. Welcome sa PHLV Radio on the air with FACC. We would like to thank our station manager, Johan, for being with us every Friday. Talaga namang maganda, magaling at napaka-supportive ng ating station manager. And syempre, from the heart of Virginia, we would like to welcome our co-host, Ed Logan. Hi, Ed.
Hey, Josie, I hope you had a good break in Massachusetts, you know?
Mm-mm.
So,
Natatawa kayo sa akin, ano? Good
know.
morning, good evening. Ay,
but it's great to be back again on the show, and I am so excited with this kicking off our 2021 Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I'm so excited that we have two young ambassadors who will be co-hosting for our show tonight. So
yes, and September is the Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. By the way, I would like to greet my mom happy birthday
oh
today.
yeah, happy
And
birthday.
your mother, Janeline Ficara, is watching us tonight in Philadelphia. Now, I would like to introduce again one of our co-hosts, Guapang Guapo Hank. He's wearing gold. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Richie Vicente.
Well, good evening. Good evening, everyone. And good morning. Good morning, magandang umaga, Pilipinas. Welcome again to another episode of tonight for our Filipino American Cancer Care. We're really excited, and it is the September month. Once again, I can't believe it's already 1 year when we celebrated last year Childhood Cancer Month. And we're going to learn a lot of good things this month. We've been learning all throughout the year, but this one specifically is for childhood cancer. And I'm really, really excited about our guests and our ambassadors who are with us today.
Yes. Emma
Kuya,
Rich,
well,
how are you
Kuya,
doing?
I am good, but I want to say, Kuya Ed, how are you doing? Oh my goodness, you've been
I'm pretty good. I have 4 more to go. They
Four
added.
more to
I
go.
thought I was supposed to be finished my chemo, but infusion, and they added 4 more. So I'll
great to see you. I'm telling you, you're always in my prayers. So
thank you.
Next time, Emerich, kasi natatawa ka sa akin kanina. Pwede ba lagyan mo ako ng billboard? Philippine time, American time, Eastern time.
And then we're gonna have interpreter line for Tom or so our
Uh-huh. And you
non-Filipino
know what?
guest.
Right now, we are we are having this show in Las Vegas, and it's 6 o'clock in the evening Pacific time, 9 o'clock here in Virginia.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
different time zones so all over the place.
My next radio show is going to be about time zone. Okay, Emerich, would you like to introduce our young ambassador who is going to join us tonight in co-hosting this radio show?
Yes, I'm so excited. We have our co-host tonight. Finally, other than Josie and Ed, right?
We
No,
have two beauty queens.
two beauty queens of right here, right now. The first one, of course, I cannot. How could I miss Miss Charmaine Cabatuando, an FACC Young Ambassador for Community and Programming Events. She's located in Manassas, Virginia, but she's going to college now, so she's in a different
She's in
location now
college
too.
now.
So, Charmaine has been singing since she was a little girl, but started to perform in front of people participating in the 2018 ISA or ISA Miss Teen Philippines America pageant. She succeeded as first runner-up with the titles of 2018 ISA's Miss Teen Philippines Maharlika, Washington D.C., and ambassador. She has performed in many cultural events with Migrant Heritage Commission dance ensembles, where she learned some Filipino traditional dances such as the Aray, Banga, Singkil, and Tinikling. Wow, she's Migrant Heritage Youth Envoy, delegate to the World Youth Assembly at the United Nations. She had wonderful opportunity to have open concerts for Maha Salvador, Jaya, Aegis, David Pomeranz, wow, Piolo, and Inigo Pascual, Ariel Rivera, Bamboo, Tekla, and Donita Rose, and just to name a few. For
And
those
Emerich
performances,
Vicente.
oh yeah, for those performances, Jermaine played the piano and guitar, which she learned while growing up, and she's also plays ukulele. Her main choice of music genre are R&B and soul. Jermaine graduated with honors in Chantilly High School Class 2021. Congratulations!
Yay.
Now she is freshman in VCU or Virginia Commonwealth University as a biology major on the path to become physician assistant doctor. Charmaine said that no two concerts are the same. No two cancers are the same. Everyone is following their own individual unique path. Charmaine and her mom Maggie has been fundraising by hosting virtual singing performances at many charitable organizations, including FACC. So
Hello. Hi,
Hi,
everyone.
Charmaine. How
Hi.
are you?
I'm good.
Is this the first time that you're going to co-host a radio show?
Yeah, this
What
is
do
the
you
first time.
what do you feel
Believe
right now? Are you nervous?
a little. A little. I
Don't
don't
worry,
know.
I'm going to
not
give you my
bite.
title.
Or us, we don't bite.
You know, Charmaine, I trained a lot of young women or young people in the Philippines to become a journalist. Who knows? You might have two careers later on. One being a journalist and
and a
one being a
physician.
doctor.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Okay, now let's introduce our co-host again, another special guest co-host. She was crowned Miss Philadelphia 2020 and placed third runner for Miss Pennsylvania 2020, sponsored by the Miss American Pageant Organization. She is the first Filipino American to win the title in the pageant's 100-year history. She is an aspiring singer, dancer, actress, and model. How I wish I'm going to be like her. but I'm not gonna be able to attain that. Her Italian-American father, Paul Ficara, owns the Barco Tech Corporation Industrial Sales. Her older brother, Victor Ficara, just graduated with honors at Penn State University and is headed to law school this fall. Her mother, Jeneline Ficara, hi Jeneline, was born in Pugula, Union, Philippines and became the first civil engineer in her hometown. Jeneline is a role model for Elaine. She is a hardworking woman and president of a Filipino American charity organization. Elaine is a proud Drexel University biology major and Pinoy honors college student as well as serving as a spokesperson to break the stigma of mental health by talking about suicide prevention via Prevent Suicide Pennsylvania. She started The World is Better with You in It, an outreach program built on simple but life saving conversations about how to spot a mental health crisis before it's too late. Ladies and gentlemen, please, Elaine.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, and we are also honored and we are so proud having you as our young ambassadors and our special guest co host tonight. Okay, Elaine, would you like to introduce our special guest tonight on this radio show in observance of the Childhood Cancer Awareness Month?
Yes, of course, thank you. It is an honor to be introducing the guest tonight. Tom Whitehead is a keynote speaker, author, and journeyman lineman for Penelec, a first energy company. He is also the proud father of Emily and co-founder of the Emily Whitehead Foundation, which raises funds and awareness for pediatric cancer immunotherapy research. Tom and his wife Carrie founded the Emily Whitehead Foundation in honor of their daughter Emily, who was diagnosed at age 5 with an aggressive form of leukemia that failed to respond to chemotherapy. As a last hope, Emily was enrolled in a clinical trial and became the first pediatric patient in the world to receive CAR T-cell therapy. The therapy worked, and Emily is now 9 years cancer-free.
Congratulations. And that's really a great blessing. Now, Ed, who wants to shoot the first question, Ed or Charmaine?
Well, before you shoot the question, though, Tom, do you want to greet everybody?
Oh, go to the business. Let's get
Tom, to be honest with you, Tom, I have to be honest with you. I took like 6 Advil today. I have a very bad headache since last night.
It's really an honor.
I think this is also the effect of the cancer drugs. You know how it is, Tom, right? And Ed knows that. When you have all these drugs, cancer drug, painkillers, everything. Yes.
Yeah, I understand. It's an honor to be with you all tonight. We're very blessed to have our Emily healthy now, and we try to pay it forward every day. So, like I said, I'm glad that you included me tonight, and I look forward to the discussion.
Well, thank
Okay.
you, Tom.
Okay, Charmaine, do you have a question for Tom?
So you guys have the I was looking along like the Emily Whitehead Foundation on like the website and stuff.
Yes.
And I was reading Emily's story. And in the story, you guys said that you heard about an experimental treatment, I don't know how to pronounce. Is it
It's
CAR T-cell?
CAR T-cell, that's
Yeah,
correct.
CAR T-cell.
Yeah, the
Yes.
CAR T-cell therapy. How did you guys hear about it? Like, you heard about it, or like were you like talking to other doctors or something?
Well, what happened was when Emily was diagnosed, just after her 5th birthday, at first we were told that her acute lymphoblastic leukemia was the most common type of childhood cancer and the most curable. So we were told it's garden variety. You'll just have to do 26 months of chemotherapy and then she'll grow up and become a grandmother. And so we were very hopeful in the beginning, but she had a very rough start. And she spent most of the first month in the hospital, but she did get in remission. So actually, in the beginning, the medicine was working, and it worked for the first 16 months then. And then we went for routine blood work up at Penn State at our local hospital. And they said this almost never happens, but unfortunately, Emily has relapsed while in treatment. So now she
Did
has less
she
than a
have a chemotherapy or radiation?
She had taken chemotherapy for the first 16 months, and it was working. That's why they said it was rare when it is working that you relapse while you're still in treatment. So once they told us she relapsed, they said you should try to go to a bone marrow transplant. And before we got started on that at the Penn State Hershey Children's Hospital, we decided to get a second opinion at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And in those trips back and forth between Penn State Hershey Children's and CHOP down in Philadelphia, at one point the doctors mentioned that there was this upcoming T-cell therapy where they're going to train the person's immune system to fight their cancer. But she said, unfortunately, we don't think Emily will survive long enough before we get permission to try it on our first patient, but we're ready to go. So we went back to Hershey trying to get into a bone marrow transplant, and they identified a non-related donor because she's an only child. And then the donor they identified actually delayed the transplant by three or 4 weeks because they said they weren't available. And in that time, she relapsed again, and then Hershey was ready to send us home on hospice and said you can enjoy the days you have left with Emily. And I paged CHOP one more time in Philadelphia, and they said, I find it amazing that you paged us today because we just got permission yesterday.
And she was given like few weeks to leave.
Yeah, we actually had at one point, they said she was down to about 48 hours from organ failure. And when we paged them, it was ready to go, and we transferred down there on March 1st of 2012. And then they extracted her T cells after we consented to be in the trial. And they eliminated her immune system with the harshest round of chemotherapy she ever received. And then she had to stay in isolation for 6 weeks while they took her own T cells off to the lab and trained them to recognize and then kill her cancer.
Ed, before I give you the floor to ask question, Tom, I would like to ask you, what is a CAR T cell?
Yeah, so we learned that too. We kind of had a forced education. So the CAR stands for chimeric antigen receptor therapy. And what they do is they put a apheresis catheter in Emily's neck, centrifuge machine, and they spun out her white T cells, and you're part of your blood that cells and B cells. And Emily's B cells were her cancer. So breaking into a T cell. That's how, when it had a virus in it, it took so many lives because it would destroy your way. But now they just use it to genetically modify your T cell by placing a protein on the virus. They call it a lentivirus. It breaks into your T cell and drops off a protein, and then your immune system remembers to fight that protein, and that protein is expressed on Emily's cancer. So they're genetically modifying and tricking your immune system to attack your cancer.
And
that's what CAR T cells are. And when they genetically modify them in the lab, one of those genetically modified T cells can kill 1,000 tumor cells.
Well, Tom, I want to make sure our listener get to know Emily. So prior to the cancer, how do you describe Emily as a little girl who, what's like her hobbies, what's like her interests, so that, to give, that type of background.
So when she was first born, she was always happy and always laughing and always pulling pranks on us to try to make us laugh. She enjoyed playing with dolls some, that like she became a daddy's girl right off the bat, and I would take her for walks in the woods, and she liked, stomping around in the streams and the woods and stuff like that. But then, once she got sick, everything changed. She was still happy. And I told her from the beginning, I said, only the strongest children are picked to fight cancer, and you're going to be a hero no matter what. But she was very resilient and very smart ever since she was little, and she loved to read. My wife, is very very intelligent and very. We just decided when she was sick in the hospital that we would bring our family closer together instead of letting it tear us apart. And we were together every day then for 2 years while she was sick. And we just decided, and we saw other families that were breaking up and not getting closer throughout that, and we decided we weren't going to let that happen. But then, I told her we got to smile once a day, so I would pull any prank I could or do something. Once I dressed up like a cheerleader and come out into her room and did a cheer, just anything to make her smile once every day to try to forget the pain. And we've kind of kept that going ever since then. And, now I can tell you, you see the little girl in the pictures, but now she's 16 years old. She has her permit to drive. She has a 4.0 grade point average, 5'10", and she exercises every day and eats gluten-free and is really healthy. And
wow, that's amazing. Now, Emery.
And probably not just in her mind.
Emery, before I give you the floor, may we hear from Elaine Ficara? Elaine, do you have a question for Tom?
Yes, Tom. Well, thank you so much for already sharing all this information. And I'm asking, what can people at home in Philadelphia, in the Philippines, what can we do to help the cause, the mission of the Emily Whitehead Foundation?
Yeah, so, we have an upcoming virtual gala. So we tell people if you can donate, that really helps us continue our mission. Or, we just promote to go help somebody that's fighting cancer and make them aware that there's new, less toxic treatments. Our goal was, once Emily got better, that we wanted to bring in more funding because philanthropy is what kept Dr. Carl June's research going when no one else would fund it, which made the treatment ready when Emily was, needed it the most. So we're just saying, we want people to spread awareness of Emily's story. We do as much media as we can because that leads to more patients getting it. And also we're spreading that awareness that there are these new ways to treat the immune system that when they work, they're much less toxic than chemotherapy and radiation. And maybe even sometimes you can avoid surgery. So they credited Emily with pioneering like this revolution that created the fourth pillar for fighting cancer, where we had surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy in the past. And now they feel they'll be able to train the immune system someday to take care of all the solid tumor cancers, which would be amazing. So to help us, we have events. We have the EmilyWhiteheadFoundation.org website. We're going to have it's free to register. We're going to have a virtual gala on September 16th. And you can register at writeabetterstory.org because we're talking about writing a better story for all these patients. And again, our goal is to make these new, less toxic treatments globally accessible. I get 1 to 2 messages a week from families from anywhere in the world that are saying standard treatment is not working for my child and we don't want to go home on hospice. Yeah. But any support you can give, we do quite a bit of fundraising and events like the Philadelphia Marathon and lots of stuff there, but really all over the place. Anybody can help, even do a small bake sale in your local town and donate it, and we'll make sure it goes towards helping treat more of these children. Since Emily's treatment, I know that there's been around 5,000 patients, more than that, worldwide, including adults, that have benefited from immunotherapy. So our goal is to make sure that that continues on, and that means more people are going to survive.
Okay, Emmerich, your turn.
That's very good. No, thank you so much for those sharing. Tom, so did you say that Emily is a daddy's girl because Carrie's not here?
No, that was true. I mean, when she was younger, when she was younger, she was more of a daddy's girl.
Now, huh?
Oh yeah, that's changed big time. Yeah, now. Yeah.
But no, my true question really is, when the first time, the first day that Emily was diagnosed, and the doctor is talking to you about
Yeah.
it, how are you and Carrie explained it to Emily? What's
Well,
her condition?
You know, when my wife called me the first time and she broke down and started to cry because I was still at work and they were at the emergency room. And I told her, don't let Emily see fear in your eyes. She has to believe she's going to get better. And then I hung up and broke down myself. But when you hear those words on day one, all you hear is cancer and then everything else is a blur.
Yeah.
You don't really hear anything else. But what I did when I got to Emily, I picked her up and that's what I told her. To myself, I thought she has to believe no matter what, she's going to get better. And I picked her up and I said, you're going to, have to fight cancer. Only the strongest children are picked to do that. And you're going to be a hero no matter what. But let's look at the bright side because we're going to get to spend a lot more time together. But she said from the beginning, please tell me when things are going to hurt. And we never lied to her. I said, I'll always tell you the truth. And there was times that I would have to hold her down when they would have to do something that would hurt very bad, but she wanted me to hold her so she could grab onto me. But it was brutal.
I'm sure.
There's no good cancer to have.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Did she ask you why I have this kind of disease?
No, I don't think so. We told her from the beginning that we don't really know what causes it. We just have to focus every day on getting you better. So we didn't focus on, why it happened. We just focused on, let's just do what we have to do today to get through today. So we're here to fight tomorrow.
Ed?
Sure. So Tom, I know I connected with you through other fathers who really trying to find the best, treatment for their son or their daughter or children. And at the time when I had my cancer, I have the all type of leukemia, but it has a mutation, right? So how did you have the courage to really open up as a family? Because sometimes this is a very private, journey. So can you give us a little bit background on that? Because as you mentioned, over 5,000 now benefiting because you, Emily and Gary, really have that courage to take that public, stories sharing.
Yeah, so we were very fortunate because my wife works in research at Penn State and has her master's.
Yeah.
So she knew how to look at every medicine they gave Emily and every open trial. But a lot of families don't know how to do that. And then I told her from the beginning, you are in charge of science, but I'm in charge of hope. And I felt very strongly that we needed to share her story and really get people to pray for her or send their positive thoughts. And that's all we really asked for throughout the whole time. I just said to Carrie, we need to start a page and just ask people to pray for Emily. And we had prayers for Emma Whitehead. And, by the time she ended up getting her CAR T-cell therapy, I went on one day and wrote, I believe I'm witnessing a miracle. Emily's starting to turn around. And by the time she got out of the hospital, we had 29,000 people following on that page. And I just decided that I wasn't going to keep it private. And I thought if we post about it and have more people trying to help her, that'll help us have success and hopefully help others in the future. And that's what it led to.
Okay, thank you. Now, Charmaine, do you have additional questions?
Just one. So through that process of the CAR T cell therapy, how long did that necessarily take, or what kind of side effects did she go through?
Yeah, so originally we did 22 months of chemotherapy to put it in perspective, and she relapsed twice, so she had it 3 times. And then we transferred down to the Children's Hospital on March 1st of 12. They grew her cells over 6 weeks, and then they treated her on April 17th, 18th, and 19th. And then that actually was the sickest she became. She had cytokine release storm from the treatment because we found out later that over 3.5 pounds of her body weight was cancer. And those cells went in there and were killing all the cancer so fast that it overwhelmed her system and put her into a coma. And she was on a ventilator for 14 days. And then they figured out how to treat the side effects while Emily was in that coma and offered an arthritis drug that had never been used on a cancer patient. And that saved her life. And she woke up on her 7th birthday from that coma And she was actually cancer-free 23 days after her first infusion of her own T cells back.
Mhm.
So we went from 22 months of fighting to 23 days later, she was cancer-free.
Wow. Okay, so before we continue this discussion with Tom, we have a special song number from Elaine Ficara. Elaine, what are you going to sing tonight?
Tonight I'll be singing Blue by You, and it has fun summer vibes as we're finishing off the summer season and entering the fall. So I hope you all.
Here we go. With Elaine.
You're so bad, all the time. Since I left my baby behind on goodbye. Saving nickels, saving dimes, working till the sun don't shine. Looking forward to happier times on goodbye. I know it's never day, come away to goodbye. When it feels so fine and the world is mine on goodbye. When I'm missing most, when I think of love, if I could only see that familiar sunrise through fleeting eyes, how happy I'd be. Gonna see my baby again. Gonna be there, some of my friends. Maybe I'll feel better again on goodbye. Saving nickels, saving dimes, working till the sun don't shine. Looking forward to happier times on Blue Bayou. I'm going back someday. Come what it may to Blue Bayou, where the folks are fine and the world is mine on Blue Bayou, where those fishing boats with their sails afloat. If I could only see that familiar sunrise through sleepy eyes, how happy I'd be. Oh, that boy of mine by my side, the silver moon and the evening tide. Oh, some sweet day gonna take away this hurt inside. Well, I'd never be blue, my dreams come true on Blue
and try our best to collaborate with others as well. And we've had a lot of great people collaborate with us, but we just decided to start our own Emily Whitehead Foundation, and it's been a lot of work, but it's really rewarding. When you take a phone call from a family from anywhere in the world, and then maybe 6 months later, they call you back and say, my child's in remission, and because you took that phone call, we found a trial that saved their life. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what inspires me every day to continue to pay it forward.
Mm-hmm. So, what is the success rate of immunotherapy in cancer patients? Because
Yeah,
I
so
read some articles, it's not really great.
well, it just depends on which you're talking about. So when you're talking about Emily's treatment for ALL, which is now the FDA-approved Kymriah, when a patient has failed all other treatments and they qualify and get into the trial, they can usually get those patients into remission at around a 90% success rate. And then 60% of those patients are done with treatment like Emily. So, and that might have come down a little bit as they treat more and more patients, but I know we were told when she went into bone marrow transplant that only 1 in 3 of those work when you have relapses like she did. So, from what I've seen and with our experience, if we would ever need a treatment in the future, we would prefer going back to a CAR T cell therapy before a bone marrow transplant.
Okay.
It sounds
And
like
Rich?
the effect or the impact is different really for each cancer patient. And I'm glad that your wife were able to do some research and look at the what that medication or that practice is going to be, because your child is going to be putting that into her body. So, and
Yeah.
I just want to go back to what you mentioned earlier, like having in your eyes as a father, and of course I'm sure you know how Carrie feels as well when describe that moment for your child. He's fortunate
Yes.
on the ventilator. If you can, describe that to the parents that's listening right now, because they probably someone's going through that, and give them a little bit of a hope out there that if you could share that a little bit.
Yeah, so, Emily had one of the most severe side effects of any patient, and they realized when they gave her the dose that was the most they received is 40% of the dose that she did. So when you're patient one in the world, they're not sure of how much to give you.
Yeah.
So, but watching her go through that 14 days was the worst time of my life. And, to have a doctor tell you there's a 1 in 1,000 chance she'll be alive in the morning. And I stayed positive that whole time. And I said, well, I'll see you at rounds tomorrow because my daughter's going to help cure cancer. And that's when he pulled me out in the hall and said, I have to be realistic here. There's less than a 1 in 1,000 chance. Kids just can't come back from how sick she is. And then it was the next morning whenever the doctors come in and said, it's really amazing how she survived the night, but she won't make it through another night. So we want to try this tocilizumab drug that we've identified overnight that her IL-6 protein is 1,000 times higher than anybody we've ever seen alive. And there just happens to be a new approved arthritis drug called tocilizumab that shuts off that protein. So it's off-brand, but we need your permission to give it to her to try to help, and that saved her life.
It's fantastic to listen and learning from you, Tom, tonight regarding all of this medication for different things, and helping your child. That's just amazing. Go ahead, Josie.
Yes.
Yeah, but I do want to say that I want parents to understand that most kids don't get that sick. There are some, but a majority of them don't end up on a ventilator. That was part of moving the trial forward. Was the FDA said to the doctors, you can't get kids this sick.
Yeah.
Well, they happened to just figure it out on Emily, so we felt like we were put on this path for a reason, and that she was meant to help others too.
Yeah.
And Tom, speaking about cancer, I always say that cancer is a high-end kind of disease. The treatments are very expensive.
Yeah.
And if you don't have insurance here in this country, I don't know how you would be able to get a quality of care in terms of treating a cancer. In the Philippines, there are so many kids who are suffering right now from leukemia.
Leukemia.
And my wish right now at this point in time is to have this immunotherapy. Even just one child in the Philippines who would be able to come here in the United States to get this CAR T cell therapy is going to have a big impact. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
the problem right now in the Philippines is also the healthcare. But, again, the hope is there. HOPE. Now, let's go back to our young ambassadors. Elaine, do you have questions for Tom?
Yes, Tom, thank you for sharing this cancer journey. And one of the things I really connected with that you said was, if I'm quoting this correctly, you said only the strongest kids are picked to fight cancer and you're going to be a hero no matter what. And you mentioned how often you made it important to help offer hope to Emily and to the entire family. What are some of the ways that you like to provide hope, and what's one of your favorite things that made Emily smile?
Well, that's all it was, I saw and I witnessed that cancer patients who stay positive have a better outcome than ones who give up. And what I did learn throughout that is kids don't give up. Adults get to a point, don't do that. Kids just keep fighting. Quite a few things that I did that would make her laugh. One of the things you've ever seen, they slowly crawl and have a water fight in there, and the nurses would get involved. They would come by and shoot her with some water, or we would get them as they walked by in the hallway. But, it was just something, there was so much stress and so much, if even when we were having a good day, sometimes you would watch a child die in the room beside you. And I just thought you have to try to remove yourself from that and smile once a day to remind yourself that there's better days ahead. So that's just the outlook that I have. I'm a positive person. And I felt, my wife is more of a realist, and she struggles a lot more with the positivity part, and she's all about the science. So it was up to me to try to get them to laugh every once in a while and just keep it light, because, all that stress can overwhelm you if you let it. So I would just do anything, something different every day. But Emily and I also would play air hockey. There was an air hockey table at the children's playroom there, and we'd go down there and joke around. And even when she was in a wheelchair, she would still play me, and I'd beat her, and then she got to a point where I couldn't beat her anymore, so she still lets me know about that every day. I said, I'm not going to just let you win.
I just want to ask a quick question, because I know when I saw the book that you guys planning to launch it, but whose idea it is, and then how did it become to fruition? Because when I read the book, I'm telling you, it's just really, you guys walk the reader to your journey vividly, and it's just the raw emotion, and it's really inspiring. So if you can give a little bit background of the book.
Yeah, so when Emily got better, we talked to the doctors, and they said, for now, when you're spreading awareness, because they put her picture on the cover of the New York Times, and we had worldwide media requests that day. But they said, can we focus on the science for now, and that'll get FDA approval, which will get more kids treated. So I said, okay. But then when we got past that at 5 years, I said, there's part of our story that people don't know. And there was a couple nights when I was praying for Emily, when things were really bad at Hershey, and I could see her getting better at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, like in the middle of the night. I called it a whisper. It's kind of like people say I got a sign. But I knew like a month before then, and I told my wife I had this very strong feeling that she's going to get better down there in the bone marrow transplant hallway, and we're going to have to teach her to walk again. And it turns out we end up paging them, and they said the T-cell trial just opened, and then they gave her the treatment, and the side effects almost took her life. And they took me in the hall and said, there's a 1 in 1,000 chance. And I said, yeah, but I happen to know she's going to beat her cancer. And I kept telling my wife, we're going to end up in that hallway teaching her to walk again. And then the last day, you know, she woke up, things turned around. And finally, the last day in the intensive care unit, the charge nurse came in and said, it's a big day for you. You're going back downstairs to the oncology ward. And Emily's pediatric oncologist, Dr. Grupp, is on service with the bone marrow transplant patients. So he wants you in that hallway. And Emily has severe atrophy with her muscles because she was in a coma for 14 days. So you're going to have to teach her to walk again. So it actually happened like a month after I told my wife it was going to happen. So Ken Burns had featured Emily in his PBS documentary, Maladies, in the 6-hour documentary. And he said, if I can ever help you guys in the future, let me know. So once we got the FDA approval, I become friends with him, and we have talks just about being fathers to our daughters and stuff. And I told him about my whispers, and he said, oh, you should put that in your book. So we had amazing people help us because we didn't want to just do a book. We wanted to do it right. So we partnered up with Danelle Morton, who's an author who has several successful books, and she worked with us to make sure it was in our words and to help us structure the, you know, the chapters so you wanted to keep reading. So, and then Ken's team represented us at WME, and really him writing the introduction inspired us to keep it moving forward because it was a lot more work than we expected. But we hope everyone gets a chance to read it. It's on, we have a website, prayingforemily.com, but the book is called Praying for Emily, the Faith, Science, and Miracles That Saved Our Daughter.
You mentioned that she is cancer-free now, and she is 16 years old. But is she taking any maintenance?
Yeah, so right now she's a normal teenager, other than she has no B cells, and you need B cells in your white blood cells to fight viruses. So she has to do an immunoglobulin replacement therapy, and it's just a medicine they ship to the house, and you put 4 needles either in your stomach or in your thighs, and it pumps in over like an hour every 2 weeks. So it just pumps it in under the skin, and then it absorbs into your system. But it's a wind-up pump that you put a big syringe of medicine in, and it pumps in. But it comes through our healthcare, and it's very expensive.
Wow.
So she's been on that ever since she got better.
Okay. Charmaine, do you have a question?
So what is one thing that you wish you knew before you started the treatments?
I just wish I was better educated on how little funding pediatric cancer gets, because I didn't know. I didn't know it's really important to make a difference in that. You know, you hear a lot of people say they only get 4%, and you find out once you're in there that you know, any grant that's given out by NIH that's even 25% towards pediatric counts as a pediatric grant. So there really isn't even 4% of the funding going there. But I think with Emily's treatment, it taught people that you can actually have breakthroughs in children that work for adults too. So I think her treatment is the first time there was ever a cancer treatment passed in pediatrics first, and then it also works in adults. So I just wish I knew more, and I wish I would have done more to make a difference before my child had cancer.
Okay,
I didn't know much about leukemia when Emily was diagnosed,
and you don't even give, you know, sometimes you don't care about cancer, because if you don't have cancer, it's like, oh, okay, it doesn't affect me right now, right?
Right.
But once it hits you, oh my goodness, it's gonna be different. And
Yeah, and that's why, Tom, we really appreciate you coming to our show, educating our listeners, both here in the United States and, of course, in the Philippines. And it's just, again, it's an inspiring stories, and we would, you know, love to meet Emily in the future, in our future events, and we could also support our young ambassadors here will be the next leaders of our organization as well, who will probably have you know, make an impact in our communities, and we really appreciate.
Yeah, and I would
your
say
time
the
tonight.
number one way to get a patient from the Philippines to the United States to get treated is start a social media campaign. We've actually seen them when a celebrity will say, let's help this child out. There was a little girl in Croatia. They raised $1 million in 5 days. So I'd love to see that happen and then have Emily meet that patient when they get here.
Yes,
can
that's
do
the
it.
goal.
That's a really good message.
Emerich.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate you telling us the story of Emily and your journey, your family's journey for Emily. And I really like the background, your background right now. I'm looking at Emily's praying for Emily. That's the cover of the book, correct?
It is. That's the
That's the
cover of the
actual,
book.
yeah.
You
It
guys
is.
have to read it, okay?
Yeah, very beautiful. Very
Is it
beautiful.
available on Amazon?
Amazon, and it's in Barnes and Noble bookstores right now. So yeah, it's out there, and
Is it an Audible?
not yet. It's not an Audible, but we hope to do that in the future. We put a many years of work into it, and then launching it come out during COVID, so I think all book sales slowed down during the last election and when the vaccine news was covering everything. But we still have people buying it and are very inspired by it. We have great feedback when we read it, so we're very proud of it. And we have a feature documentary film coming out with Oscar winner Ross Kaufman sometime in 2022, and that'll be titled Trial by Fire. So we're hoping that
Definitely, we
awareness
will
will
invite you, Tom, here
begin.
in DC, okay? We're going to do an opening show of that, okay? So that's good.
That sounds great.
partnership, so.
Tom, what are the hopes and dreams of Emily?
Well, right now, Emily is looking at colleges. She has a 4.0 grade point average in her junior year. She's just starting her junior year of high school. But she's hoping to become a film director right now. We've got to film with some amazing film crews. She has great role models in the industry. She's all about girl power. But she also spent a day on set with Steven Spielberg watching him direct the remake of West Side Story. And when we left there, she said, I want to do that. So
Does she
right
like
now
K-pop? Does she like K-pop? Korean
She does,
pop?
yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
here we go.
I think what she really wants to do is to tell people what to do. That's what the director does.
Exactly. That's what I told her. That she directs me right now.
Mhm.
Very
Tom,
proud of her though. She works very hard and she's actually keeping herself very healthy with she's doing a gluten-free diet right now and exercising every day because she knows that'll keep her healthy as well.
Perfect.
So in terms of diet, what does she likes to eat?
A lot of fruit. She does yogurt and chickpeas. I told her I can only survive so long on chickpeas myself, but everything she eats right now, it's all about being healthy. But she eats quite a bit. She'll do some chicken sometimes, but she prefers to stay away from red meat just because she said that it made her feel bloated a lot. So she just tries something, and when she went gluten-free, it solved a lot of the problems. She was having some stomach problems from all the chemotherapy side effects, but she solved that without medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So really, she's just a normal teenager right now. Likes to have fun, and she's kind of introverted like my wife, so she stays home and reads. And they haven't minded being in during COVID at all.
Mm-hmm.
Have she eaten any Filipino food, or you, or Carrie?
We're open to it for sure.
Yeah. Well, I
like
have
egg rolls a
I
lot.
have a simple recipe for you and Emily, since Emily loves fruits. So
Yeah.
the fresh cut fruits, and then instead of a heavy cream, use the yogurt, the plain yogurt.
Yep.
Mix it, okay, and then
That's not
put some
Filipino food.
coconut. Put some coconut. That's the version of our fruit salad.
The healthy version.
And put coconut stripes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can get the coconut meat and mix it with raisins. There you go. That's
Sounds awesome.
yep. That's a new generation of fruit salad.
And her and Carrie make their own granola too. They make homemade granola all the
You
time.
see?
Oh, that's nice. I like
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, my husband is telling me that CAR T cell therapy, he gave me that stock and he said, that stock CAR T cell therapy, I gave you that. I said, I didn't know that. And it's
Hopefully the
actually
stock is going
doing
up,
well.
okay?
Yes, this CAR T cell. Anyway, my question for you, Tom, my last question. Do you think immunotherapy could be a turning point in the fight against cancer?
Yeah, I think it already is, and they just need a lot more time to figure out how to make it work. You know, I've already been told um, by a lot of the scientists. We've gotten to tour labs all over the world. You know, we've gotten to take Emily to Switzerland twice. We met the first child who received the treatment in Oslo, Norway. But it's really added a fourth pillar to fighting cancer, and I do believe someday it'll replace bone marrow transplant in the blood cancers, and I just hope that they make some more breakthroughs because it's starting to work. They just got to figure out how to make it work in the solid tumors, and I think someday cancer is going to be an outpatient treatment with this breakthrough. I truly believe that.
Okay. Again, thank you so much, Tom. And lastly, do you have messages for everyone, especially since we are observing the celebration of this Childhood Cancer Awareness Month?
Yeah, I mean, I tell people during your darkest times, you know, we've seen how bad stress can get in your life and that, but if you stay positive and look for an outcome, we tell people do all the research you can and be the best advocate for you or your family member or loved one, and then really trust your instincts because, you know, after we got done, Dr. June, who created this treatment, he said, Tom, you know, I'm a science guy and I don't pray myself, but I believe in miracles now because whatever guided you guys back and forth, he said, I can count 6 decisions that you made, and every one of those saved Emily's life. And twice you went against the doctors, and all of those decisions came from those whispers I had. So I just feel like it's the path we were put on, and I feel like anyone out there that needs that, you know, don't be afraid to ask for help either when you need a boost when you're having a bad day. And we're there to take those calls from parents, and we're going to continue every day to try to pay it forward. And so many other families, and hopefully some in the Philippines soon, get this treatment and have the same outcome. We'd love to come to the Philippines someday and meet the first child treated there.
And your family is an inspiration for everybody. Thank you so much. And sa ating mga special guest co-host, Elaine, what did you learn tonight being a special guest co-host for this radio show?
Well, thank you so much for having me as a co-host on this radio show. I definitely learned so much about CAR T-cell immunotherapy and what we can do to help, and I just feel so inspired and seeing that positive light that you emphasize so much. So I really appreciate it. And if you ever have events in Philadelphia, also as a part of the Emily Whitehead Foundation, please reach out to the Miss Philadelphia organization. We're always looking for ways to help families in Philadelphia and all over the world. So we'd be happy to partner and really help reach out to more kids, as this is such an important cause. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch for sure. Hopefully you can meet Emily.
I'd be happy to. I'll be in Philadelphia, so it'll be great. Thank you so much.
Emily's gonna be wearing your crown.
No, you're looking for future Miss Philadelphia.
There you go.
Who knows?
Philadelphia 2022, maybe?
Yeah. Okay, and Charmaine?
Thank you for having me as well. I enjoyed the conversation that we were having, and I loved like how Elaine said you're a positive light. I really appreciate your optimism on it. And I think the thing that I learned was the process of like I didn't even know about the CAR T cell therapy, and as I just started college, but I'm a bio major too, like Elaine as well. And I think it's really fascinating how they can come up through these clinical trials. They can find ways to help a bunch of people.
Okay. It's 10 o'clock in the evening here in Virginia. Maraming salamat sa ating mga listeners, viewers, followers, and supporters sa ating programang On the Air with FACC. Ed, thank you so much. And Emerich, Tom, thank you so much. And we are looking forward to seeing you here in DC, Tom and family. Elaine, thank you. And Charmaine.
Have a good
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Great energy tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great meeting you, Tom. Bye, Elaine and Tremaine. Please
Thank
mute
you.
it. Bye bye.